Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I want to take you with me into a talk with Elizabeth Waterhouse. Liz is one of the smartest dancers I know. She graduated with a bachelor in physics from Harvard University, and then after getting a master of fine arts in the field of dance, she went on to work with the Forsythe company for almost 10 years. After that, she continued with her academic research. She's now a dance scientist and a postdoc at Bern University. Liz is also a certified Pilates mat instructor and gyrotonics teacher. And I want to talk to her about rituals that she implemented in order to stay sane and safe in a challenging environment like dancing in the Forsythe company, but also in an academic field, which is challenging in a totally different way, sitting all day and all that. I also want to talk to her about her own body perception, how that developed during the stages of her life. And I'm very, very excited about her wisdom on all these topics.
Liz, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for following my invitation.
My pleasure.
Shall I jump right into it? Are you ready? I want to start with a little questionnaire. Just answer as quickly as possible, right? Without overthinking.
Describe your mood in 3 words.
I'm a bit jittery. I'm happy. I'm excited.
Which daily ritual do you cultivate?
I have a ritual that I've been cultivating. It hasn't gotten to be a daily ritual yet. My days, sometimes I get busy in the morning and I miss my morning ritual, but I really enjoy when I have time to do the warm-up from Yoga Nirvana. That's a 20-minute sequence that's very similar to Eastern practices of meridial opening. And I really love in the mornings, usually after I've had my coffee and my breakfast, to just take 20 minutes and in quiet for me to do this practice before my day. And it's a sitting and calming practice, and it makes me feel really grounded and optimistic and ready and able to deal with the obstacles and crazy things that usually happen in my life. Yeah, so that's unfortunately, I have to say, I like today I didn't find the time to do it, but it is the ritual that I turn to. Yeah.
When do you usually get out of bed? With which foot?
I love this question. I knew this question ahead of time, and I had to actually double check what I did. So my bed is in a room against the right wall, and I get out of bed on the right side, and I realized that my memory without having tried it was that I always put my left foot down and take a step with the right.
Cool.
And then I wondered, I was like, well, is that me, or is it because of the geometry? And I tried to figure out if I had been on the other side of the bed, I still think I would ground my left side and go with my right side. So yeah, that's a very Liz thing to do, to ground on the left and go on the right. I had a very difficult foot injury that at the end of my dance career on the right foot. And it was always a question for me if my feet had different personalities. And at one time I was on vacation on a big rock, and I was about to jump into the sea, and I was like, oh, wow, it's very interesting that my right foot is the one that wants to jump and my left foot wants to stay on the rock. So I've kind of observed this in my life, as these different patterns or habits and how they relate to situations and how we feel. Sorry.
totally.
Not overthinking.
Which foot was the injured one?
The right one, my go
right
foot.
Mm-hmm. I have the same. I had the same when I was little, but well, this is going far now. But when I was 10, I injured my right foot, and I had the same way of dealing with it somehow. This is a very interesting topic to dive deeper another time.
If a fairy grants you a wish, what will you ask for?
I would love to have a new approach to work in Western culture.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we are in a lot of habits about working hard, working long, and I think that these are very difficult habits for us as humans. So that's one wish I would love to have. So a rethinking of work.
Is there anything you cannot stand or that you absolutely dislike?
Aside from very garlicky things, I dislike getting up early, and I also dislike aggressive, matters of prejudice, matters of intellectual arrogance, matters when people don't take time to understand each other, these kind of things.
Give us one movement to do together.
It's from Yoga Narada, so it's kind of two movements. So like you're waking up in the morning, you're gonna take your hands softly and with an inhale, rub the inner corner of the eye and follow along the eyebrow to the external corner, and then exhale and pull the space out. We can do that again. So inhale, inner corner of the eyebrow, exhale. We can also do that under the eye, like you're rubbing your eyes from the sinus, inhale, and then exhale. And to even it out, we'll do it one more. So inhale and exhale.
It feels so good.
Right?
It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's part of the morning ritual for me.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Yeah, totally. Liz, I want to dive back into your yoga experience, your routine, and your education there later. Yeah. But I would love to go a bit back in time. You have been raised in upstate New York, as right. That's if I remember that, or if I got that right from my little research. And you did lots of different things, like you learned to program in the 90s, and you went to Harvard University and got your bachelor in physics, and then you went on to get a Master of Arts at the Ohio State University. Yes. And then you went on with dancing and did a long period of time dancing, what you call amidst the Forsythe company. Did a lot of research and continued to perform, but also to go more into producing and at the same time researching processes connected to dance, like kind of reconciling art and science in a way. What I was interested in, because when I look you up on Google, what I find is mostly connected to your mind. And what I was asking myself is, how's your own connection to your body, and what do you like? How has also the relationship to your body evolved over all those periods of your life?
That's interesting. It's true that I don't have so much documentation of my own artistic practice out there on the internet, and that In my last, in the book that I worked on as part of my dissertation, my experience dancing in the Forsythe company is dealt with at the margins because I am the narrator, but it's true I haven't focused explicitly on my practice. That is a great and big question. Let me think how I can thread a narrative about that. I guess I am in my life, like many anthropologists, and I think dancers, that we have lived full lives with our body in many different contexts. And we've experienced the changes of different cultures, different work groups, bodily cultures and bodily experiences, and perhaps different families or families of different cultures. And I've worked in situations where one's body is not considered so much when you're studying physics at the university. You're trying to stay awake as much as possible and do think interesting things and work with materials that allow you to do research, but your own body isn't so much of a focus. And yeah, I guess to narrate that thread is it reflects perhaps the different aspects of my curiosity and intelligence, and trying to find a life that would braid all those things together. And that has been, I guess, in my case, difficult because I haven't found a profession in which I can exist and do everything. That's been a and even as a child, yeah, it was a bit easier as a child getting to be a dancer after school and going to school in the mornings. But as we become mature adults and have family lives and other responsibilities, even that balance gets off. So I can say in my life, I've always been braiding together as best I can different interests that are perhaps more abstract, more physical, and satisfying the different curiosities that I have. And one through line that I recently discovered, maybe this is helpful, is that surprisingly, all these things have had an aspect of cooperation in them. And maybe the least cooperative thing I've done is my dissertation, writing a PhD, which is in its construction, it's this type of rigor is supposed to be something that you do alone, and that's not the case. You have an advisor, you have peers, you have a department. You're learning how to speak and write through dialogue with other people, but in the end, it's a self-authored work. But in my different work as a student learning physics, we were in a surprisingly collaborative department in which we had problem sets and we worked in groups. In my dance studies, there was a lot of exchange in the Forsythe company. I wouldn't call it a collective, but for sure we cooperated. We took different roles often than Forsythe, in the sense of we didn't share co-authorship, but we were very active in making decisions. And I really like it when I get to do interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary projects, and there's this cooperative exchange, and that fuels me so much. And maybe that's also this need to take different roles. Yeah. But yeah, my body. My body and all of that is, yeah, I have to say it's not always been part of the reason I think I left physics also is I remember saying something offhand to someone, but I think we can think about it seriously, was that it's like, I can't sit down anymore. And that seemed like a terrible reason to leave physics. Like, how could you say that's the reason why? But it was really, I was programming and I was like, my body I don't want to sit down and think anymore. Yeah, so I would love to live in a world where I could dance half the day and then work or dance or work on movement or teach movement half day and then half the day work more intellectually on some sort of cooperative project that would kind of produce something good in society. That would be my ideal life. And if anyone out there wants to start a, I don't know, a consulting firm of dancers who can do so, I would be very happy to have a more balanced like that.
Yeah, because everywhere you go now, you feel like whenever you focus on the one side, you're missing out on the connection with other parts of you that make up you, if I understand it right. Yeah, okay. I totally get that. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's the curse of specialization, I guess.
Also, and the fact that dance studies is a relatively young field, I think it doesn't have the institutional stature that makes funding these unusual experiments, that's not easy to do. And also universities are different in Europe, that the practice and theory is more typically separated between a university and a Hochschule. So some of those things are also just institutionalized, and how to create new formats and connections in the free market is difficult. Yeah.
Yes. So you're currently working as a postdoc at the University of Dan.
Yes.
You are teaching. You just would like to kind of broaden up this field of your of what you're doing. You're certified as in several fields. You're certified in Pilates, but also gyrotonic, and now you're doing an education as a yoga instructor. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I guess I discovered yoga, my first yoga class at the Ohio State University. And I can't really remember exactly what method it was. And then a few years later, I discovered gyrotonic in Boston with a master trainer, Lisa Pari. And because I have a scoliosis, my spine has funny habits of twisting to the right a little bit and side shifting. Gyrotonic is a machine-based practice. I'm in my studio now with the machines, and it focuses on undulations of the spine coupled with breath. And it's a symmetric, flowing, dance-like practice with a machine developed by Julio Horvath, who was a yogi, swimmer, dancer, ballet dancer. And gyrotonic was for me just revelatory. It felt wonderful, and it started to allow me to have more, because of my twist in my spine, my asymmetries, I had also kind of locking mechanisms in my body to compensate for being asymmetric. And gyrotonic allowed me to kind of have a gentle practice that could undo those long-term habits, and gave me a lot of freedom, feeling of freedom, and also physical freedom, improved my dance technique. But that was really secondary. It was more the enjoyment, the understanding. So I really have loved gyrotonic, and I decided in 2015 or so to pursue the education, because I wanted, on one hand, to have a deeper understanding, and the other to go from a movement practice that I had no external image really of what I was doing. It's very interesting as a dancer. And a practice in which teachers touch very frequently, not always, but practice of touching your client and using touch to transmit and guide movement. I really wanted to take on that new knowledge. So I did the education, and then built up my teaching practice very slowly. So now I teach 1 day a week. I'm thrilled with that. Because of my job, I can't do more, my job at the university, but I love one-on-one transmission. I prefer that to group lessons in dance, which I had also pursued, but the one-on-one thing and also getting to know all different types of people and bodies is for me so satisfying. So yes, that was how I landed in gyrotonic. And gyrotonic, like many, it is a mixed form, having its basis in a dancer who did yoga, did lots of sports, and who built a network of exchanges with physical therapists and a wide range of people, including Hilary Cartwright. Mm-hmm. And Hilary Cartwright has gone on to the yoga for dancers practice that she and Julio developed, I believe, together. But I'm not sure exactly about the history. In New York, she has gone on to develop her methodology and to share it with a group of teachers. So amazingly, strangely, in the COVID pandemic, I was like, I need something. I need to move and not just alone in my studio. And Hilary Cartwright has a link to Bern. She's come here every year to do workshops. So I had done Yoga Narada workshops with her, and I found out she was teaching online. And that was, she has unbelievable powers. One, her voice has a wonderful British intonation and clarity. So it transmits very well over Zoom, and her experience of teaching the same practice for, I don't know, 50 or 40 years, she's, and it's almost superhuman what she's able to perceive through an image, a small image on Zoom. So I know I was very skeptical that yoga could be taught through Zoom, but with Hilary, I just benefited from, she teaches 3 classes a week, so I could dive in and then do one-on-one training. And, or there's 2 of us, my colleague Hilary, Karen Minga and I are doing a teacher training. And this is, breath is of course one of the essences of movement, but so is pleasure. So is balance, play. She doesn't talk about it so much in the lessons, but I've heard her sometimes describing beauty, that she brings grace and beauty back into motion. And it's a yogic form where we're not trying to find an ideal asana, like an ideal pose, but rather each person is working towards a discovery, right? Through a practice that has many variations. So I could maybe talk a little more in depth if you want to know more about. She also has a website, Yoga Narada, and there's.
We will link that, definitely.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
That will be great. So if people want to dive deeper into that, they can have their own experience there. It sounds beautiful. Yeah.
And another way for people that are gyrotonic teachers is that we could say it's the sister or cousin to gyrokinesis, which is the gyrotonic practice certified in the gyrotonic world without the machines. And so these are very, well, to a gyrotonic teacher, you would say, oh, they're not the same. There are differences, but they're definitely cousins or sisters to one another.
Yeah, related. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Do you train yourself, like when you train yourself nowadays? Do you stick to what you learn there, or do you also like dive into dance and ballet and whatever you've done before? Do you still continue doing that on a regular basis?
The word training has somehow lost its meaning for me in the last years, maybe since I've become 40. I move.
Yes.
Yeah. So my movement practices include, I do gyrotonic for me normally twice a month for my scoliosis. I take contemporary dance training with Chris Leshner when I can in Bern. He's a fascinating teacher with a lot of anatomical knowledge. It's an improvisation-based class, which is very important for me to have a space in my life where I'm improvising movement, not just dealing with practices that are more sequence-based. And I sometimes go jogging or try and interact in nature. And I've discovered in the last 2 years, the big thing for me is I became an avid amateur surfer.
Yay! This is great, because this is also kind of taking on this idea of improvising a little bit, because you never know what comes. You have to react and you have to go with the flow. And yeah, cool.
And bike riding, yeah, I try and like the active lifestyle as opposed to training. And it's a question now, if I used to go to the gym and that just dissolved with COVID, and now I'm questioning, I don't really feel a need to go back. Yeah. And sometimes the only thing that might come to mind is training as in a sort of discipline that I do that might not be for pleasures. There are sometimes some basic exercises I do if I notice my spine is getting off, because that type of homework tends to bring me happiness. Yeah, when I don't have pain sitting.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but I like this new free of training kind of model in my life.
More focusing on moving wherever you are. So if you're standing in the row of the supermarket, you can kind of still move a little bit and feel yourself. And yeah, that's beautiful. Cool. I love that.
Yeah. Sweating is fun. That I sometimes miss. I like it in the summer when I'm cycling and you get to that heat. But yeah, there are other ways to do it. I've also tried using the machines here to come up with a surfing-like routine here in my studio that gets the heart rate up, gets that pump. I enjoy that too. That's sometimes associated with training for me, this heart rate. And
this is great. This is also great input for anybody who used to be dancing but cannot do it in their normal life or in their actual job. So just to look at it from a different perspective, because I feel for some people it can be a yes or no thing. Like, okay, I can't make it to the dance training or whatever training, so I don't do anything. And to say no, there's like your whole life in between, and that's a great inspiration from you for those people. Maybe looking back, because you had a in your lifespan, like between 2004 and 2015, when you were dancing with the Forsythe company, you had a very like active career as a dancer, which was probably also very demanding physically and for your mind and for everything, I guess.
Very.
Do you maybe also have some like looking back, what would you advise yourself to with your knowledge now to do, like maybe also for people who are in those kinds of challenge right now? What would you say?
It's interesting. In my work at the university, I study oral history, and I recently watched an interview that gave some advice that I wish I had had. So it was an interview with Kevin McKenzie of American Ballet Theatre. And he was giving advice to a very young, promising dancer. And he suggested that this dancer dance in 1 year in a company where he was at home, and then move to New York and join ABT. And I was like, that's one advice is that his point was New York City is also a very exciting place. When you're a young person, there's a lot to see. There's also nightlife and everything, and exploring love, and it's a lot when you're a young person. I moved abroad at 24, but I think recognizing to take it slow, that the life skills that you're acquiring are important. In my case also, I moved abroad without knowing the language, right? And had never been to Germany. That was crazy. So just recognizing that it takes time, and to make sure that you're grounded for, that you have someone to talk to for the challenges of a demanding workplace, and that you have support for learning the language, that you learn how to cook and prepare yourself food that's nourishing. And also getting to know your rhythm. That's one thing. I'm a night person, so finding a rhythm that I could get enough sleep and get up early enough to warm up also a little bit before the training. That would have been helpful. Not many dancers in the Forsythe company warmed up before training, and for my body that was kind of necessary. Yeah, these are also practical, but when I was a young dancer, I was just focused on my work and didn't have the support structures always to make work easier. Yeah. And in terms of bodies, I think we had it quite good in the Forsythe company in that we were recognized as being quite individual peoples with different needs. We were also, in terms of age, at one point I wasn't the youngest member of the Forsythe company, but I was on the young end, and there were dancers in their 40s and even one in their 50s. So it was clear that we all had different needs for training. And that was a very, very good thing. And something that I don't know if all other dancers have, that to be able to take a day to do a different sort of training, or even less, to not jump, or to get ready for a difficult performance in which your role requires a certain type of facility to be able to focus on that. So that was a positive aspect. And for me to have had a practice, like, I wonder if Yoga Narado, just had a performance, and I did my grounding practice before every show, and I just had so much more ease, and with breath support also, so much more ease performing. And I wonder, as a young dancer, if that could have also sustained my practice more than strength training and other types of things that I turned to be ready and fit. That would be an interesting experiment to try with younger dancers today.
Yes, definitely. Because what you did is probably what most people do, like focusing on the obvious thing and on the goal and all those many things that are going on, and then losing sight of the supporting ground. It actually has to be there somehow. And some might fall because they don't have it. So that's a good advice, I guess. And very important viewpoint also, that can lead to more sustainability for sure. Yes. And also what comes up for me when I listen to you is that what I read about your research is also about processes that are non-hierarchical. Do you say that in English?
Yes.
Yeah. What you tell about the Forsythe company and the work sounds a bit like that. Like it's not so much based on hierarchies, like maybe in other ballet structures.
Right.
And so you obviously have that like more freedom. And I just thought if that would be a very important aspect also to if we think about evolving the dance world more, and also dance educations and everything,
Right.
to make sure young dancers are able and allowed to do to have their own choices in a way that supports them.
Yeah. I guess in my reflection about the work in the Forsythe company since I stopped around 2013, one of my questions was how I felt about the collaborative choreographic processes versus cooperative and the different modes they're in. And I started working on my dissertation really almost exactly when Trump was voted into office. And so it was really interesting that the word leadership for me came up more than I expected when I saw like a failure of political leadership in the country that I was raised in. And then questioning like, well, for me, Forsythe, it was a very strong author and leader. But the way that he led and the way that he created power and inspiration in the company, I think might be different than other types of strong solo authored choreographers. And there are a lot of layers to that. And there's also the way that our society values genius, perhaps male genius, likes to also the way that the works were framed by outsiders in programs and such as his versus something more fluid. But yeah, the term leadership and how to be a contemporary, either a choreographic leader in a workplace where it's sustainable, it's respectful, it's human, and also maybe, how we do that today, given so the norms of training in certain practices like ballet that have been exclusive and repressive. I'm excited to see post-COVID. There are a lot of signs that things are changing. I mean, even if you look at American Ballet Theater's website, like the figure of the dancer is much more, it's different now. It's not a white male dancer holding a white female dancer. So things are changing. That's exciting.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much, Liz.
My pleasure.
For this very inspirational little talk. I would already like to wrap it up here, and I'm hoping for many of these ideas and inspirations to find their way and weave their way into dance history and history of society and work life and everything. We touched about everything here. That's great. So thank you so much. If you
My pleasure.
Do you have anything to that you still want to that we can announce? I know you have a book coming up. You've authored a book that's going to be published next year.
My dissertation, the last year and a half with COVID, I've been revising my dissertation. It has the title Processing Choreography, Thinking with William Forsythe's Duo. And it is a book which follows William Forsythe's choreography duo over 20 years of history. This is a duet performed by 11 performers, and my interest was to question how we would look at a choreography across its process in 20 years and how dance studies could reflect upon the voices and testimony of the dancers about their practice. So the book includes a lot of interviews with the dancers, and If you're interested in learning about the institutional framework and production of Ballet Frankfurt and the Forsythe Company, there's a bit on that. There's a section on movement, and there's a section on creativity where I describe how the piece was made and how the creative spirit pragmatically allowed the dancers through their interpretation and foresight to keep revising and adapting the work. And this book will be available online, open access. So unfortunately, I think the paper copy is expensive, but it will be available open access. So you can check it out and let me know. It is a dissertation, so.
So it's not the easy read version yet.
It's not. It was written to satisfy academic requirements in the humanities, in Tanzwissenschaft. So I tried in the revisions to make it clear that there are sections of for different readers, and if you're a sociologist, you'll like certain sections, and if you're a dancer, you'll like other sections. So just find the sections that speak to you.
Yay, that's cool. I'm much looking forward to that, and we will definitely link it. I think there's a preview already available. We will link it down below this video for everybody who might be watching it after that. So thank you, Liz. I'm hugging you. Truly. And yeah, see you hopefully soon. Bye.
If you're interested in Liz's work, we will definitely link her own website, dancelikething, down below, as well as the website of the University of Bern and the Yoga Narada website, which is a style of yoga that Liz is actually learning and teaching. If you enjoy talks like that, please subscribe to my channel. Also click the little bell so you get notified when a new talk is coming out, and then I hope to see you again soon in a talk or on the yoga mat. Have a nice day.